Welcome back to the Van Life channel. Today we are talking trucks. Loads of people, when they are building overland trucks, use a base vehicle like this one, the MAN HX60. It's an ex-military vehicle, it's raw, it's rugged, relatively easy to repair. Now, we've not gone down that route because why would we ever follow everybody else on Van Life? We like to do it our own way. So say hello to our MAN TGM 320. Excitingly, this is the first 4x4 MAN that's actually been brought into the UK in this specification. The MAN TGM is a common sight on UK roads. Most of them, though, do not come in this 4x4 specification. So when you do buy the 4x4 spec, a lot of things change. So for example, you get these light protectors. There's actually a two-part protector on this. That comes from factory. I've upgraded this as well. These are shackles. That's an upgrade, and they connect right through to the chassis. This is obviously, if you get yourself stuck, this gives you a way of pulling the truck out. There is also, behind here somewhere, there, you've got another way of pulling the truck out with that. This is an extra filter that goes on the front grille to filter the air more finely that goes into the engine. So if you're in a desert or such like, that's why that's on. In a normal derivation, these cabs sit a lot lower, but because they're on these big wheels and the raised chassis, they need this extra step down here. It's a step that moves, so if you hit it, it will absorb the impact and stay there. But you need that step, because otherwise to get up to that first step is just not really very practical. LED lights, we've got LEDs on the front, so it's a full set of LED lights inside here, indicators, side light, running light, all of that LED. Spotlights or LEDs built into there as well. Tyres, these are the Continental HCS. They are specifically designed for off-road use. Size of these 395/85 R20s. We come back to the HX60 over here. This is the Continental HCS, but in a more traditional size, which is the 1400 R20. So they're both 20-inch rims, but this is a slightly bigger tyre. What you find now is more of the tyres are moving to this 395 size instead of the 1400. I don't understand why, but anyway, that's why we've got those. So when we were buying this truck, one of the things that became very apparent is a lot of the sales guys who haven't ordered this type of vehicle before said you cannot have a single tyre on the rear axle. In fact, Scania, who we spoke to a couple of dealers because Scania, King of the Road, was my first choice. They wouldn't sell me one. They literally said, we can't do this. Well, you definitely can, because that's how they've spec'd this truck. And you actually do see a few of these around. There's Bowser companies that use this same specification. Anyway, it's quite rare to see a single tyre on the back. Most trucks traditionally will have two tyres in there. That's why that big gap is in there. That's just the way those trucks work for traction. The reason you don't have a double wheel on the back of this is stones tend to get stuck. If you're doing a lot of off-road driving, those big stones will get stuck between the tyres and ultimately can put a hole in the tyre. Inside there, two batteries uprated, they're 180 amp hour each. Nothing here at the moment, it's an open chassis and it was ordered this way. Ultimately what will be going in there is a 430 litre fuel tank, which we've had to order specially. Most modern trucks running on air, but because again of what this is going to be used for, air suspension can be quite vulnerable off-road. So if you've got big stones, you pop a bag. So what this one's on is leaf spring, front and rear. LED lights on the rear. On the rear as well, just like the front, there's a twin set of shackles. So if it gets stuck, you've got something attached to the chassis to help pull it out. Up this side of the truck, this is the fuel tank that came from factory. It's a steel tank, 150 litres. We always knew it was never going to be big enough, so it's the smallest one you can get from the factory. This will be being removed. This is the exhaust, the DPF exhaust, and this is for the AdBlue. There's plenty of people that say DPF filters and AdBlue is a real problem, and there are areas in the world where AdBlue is just not available. We have gone for a much bigger tank. So this is a 65-litre tank. It's the largest tank you can have on a TGM chassis. So hopefully that will potentially overcome that problem. But also there are more and more areas of the world now that are having to have AdBlue as more vehicles with AdBlue get exported into those regions. On the back of the cab, that big black thing, that's your air intake, which comes through into a big filter there. And these little things down here, that's what the cab sits on. So the whole cab is on air suspension. So as the vehicle moves up and down the road, the air balances the cab out to make it more comfortable to drive in. Modern trucks have a huge amount of safety gear on them to make it safer to drive, to make it safer for pedestrians, and this is part of a radar system. What this does is pick up cyclists, people, objects that are down the side of the truck, and then that will send you a warning into the cab so you know there's someone up here, so you don't turn in on them. Ever wondered where your bottles and fluids and all that stuff are on a truck? Well, there's a little handle there. And you open up the front of the truck that way. This behind here is where you access your fluids. So that's water top up, radiator, that's your air intake filter. These are the things you'd want to check before you go out on an adventure and keep your eye on all the time. Big radiator back there, all hidden behind this front grille. If you need to clean your windscreen on the front of your lorry, you drop that step down, get hold of that, get up there, step here, and then you can clean your windscreen. Now, talking of the windscreen, this is a tinted and heated windscreen, both of which are upgrades to this truck. We've also put a tinted sun visor on the top of this, automatic windscreen wipers, and this is a camera detection system. Now this thing here, this is the Allison Transfer Case. What this does, it takes the drive out of the engine and splits that drive between front and rear. So you've got a prop shaft running to the rear and a prop shaft running to the front, and then there is a diff lock which you can have on the front, on the rear, or all together, and that's ultimately, if you get stuck in the mud or the sand or whatever else, that's what's going to pull you out. So this piece of kit here is probably one of the most important pieces of this 4x4. Inside the chassis, you've got the two air tanks which feed the brakes. They are the master cylinders for the brakes. And this truck, because again it's an off-road 4x4 truck, it actually runs on more traditional technology of drum brakes. If you went through the Mercedes or the Volvo version, they'd have a very similar layout with the leaf springs and the drum brakes. That is relatively standard. But for our truck here, where the investment's been made is all around the cab. For a start, this one is a sleeper cab. We're going to jump up inside. I'm going to talk through some of the bits that we expect. These air seats are combined leather and suede. They are heated. They also have the fresh air function, so they're cooling and heating, and they're air seats. So as the truck drives along, not only is the cab on air, these seats are also sitting on air. The other thing that works with air is the steering wheel. So when you get up inside a truck, you can move the steering wheel, you do that, and you can move the steering wheel through pretty much every single angle. And then to lock it in place, you just flick that and you're set. Taking you on a quick tour of the cab. Steering wheel here. Back here, this is where the bunk is. Then underneath the bunk, we've got this pull-out drawer. Within this drawer, there is a fridge freezer. This side, we've got a storage cabinet. From the factory, this truck comes with a control panel up in the back here. So if you're in your bed, you can control some of the features in the truck, like putting your lighting on. You can put your windows up and down, lock the truck, all sorts of stuff like that. Now this would be brilliant, except for the fact that we've got to cut a really big hole in the back of this cab. So we've got to walk through into the habitation box. So all of this has either got to be lost or relocated. That's still being sorted out. But anyway, from factory, you get that. Also in the sleeping compartment, you have some LED lights. And then here and across the back, you've got curtains that pull all the way around the cab. So when you want to go to sleep, you bring the curtains around the edge of the cab. And this gap in the curtain there is to go around the screen, which is for the mirrors. This is the MAN OptiView system, which we'll talk about more in a second. But ultimately, with that there, you can turn it on from the control panel in the back. And with that, you can then see people walking around to drive a vehicle over 7.5 tons or a commercial vehicle under 7.5 tons, you need a tachograph because you're limited on the number of hours you can do as a driver. Then these controls up here, you've got your internal lighting. There's various different lighting options in this truck. There's the soft night red light. And then you've got the LED brighter white lights. That is an electrically controlled sunroof, open and close on the buttons. And the sunroof also has a bug blind and a full blackout blind. Final two buttons up here is for the sun visor. So if you want to bring the electric sun visor down, which again is one of the options we spec'd, you do this, and that's your sun visor to protect you from the sun. To get it back out of the way, you just do that. The screen is run through this mouse system here, where you can scroll to each element of the truck, whichever one you got to go to. This vehicle has inbuilt navigation, map system, telephone, CarPlay based. We can go to various different functions, the radio function, turn it up. It's got a built-in sub. Sounds so good. Moving along the dash, this button here, that's for your camera. So if you want to see around, you can use that to see all the different views around the truck. Automatic climate control on this vehicle. These are your radio controls. And then down here, one of the most important things for off-roading, these are your diff locks. So you can have two diff locks, rear diff lock, front diff lock. We've also got in this truck a workspace. So if we want to have a laptop while we're on the road doing some work, that flicks out like that. Also doubles up as your lunch tray, little drink holder there. So that's a nice feature. We've also got the optional footrest here. So it clicks down and then can click into various positions. So if you want to put your feet up and have a more comfortable position, there you go. This truck has a system called OptiView. This screen here and the one on the other side, rather than having traditional glass mirrors, this one has a set of cameras either side and what's called the Cyclops mirror, which is the front looking camera, which points down there. So you can see what's going on around the truck on these screens. You can also adjust that view based on what you want to see in a particular moment. They also adjust dynamically. As you're driving, you can see a wider angle or a more narrow angle depending on the speed you're going at. And that yellow line there, which you can preset based on the truck trailer that you've got on the back of it, that indicates the back of your truck. So you've got a fair idea when you're backing up where that needs to go to. Other extras we put in this truck, it's got the MAN leather steering wheel. These are all your safety controls, so dynamic cruise control, you've got your volume control. If you want less distraction in the night time, so you can go down and choose a view which is much more simple, so it's not distracting you when you're driving. And then scroll back up again and you go to the full screen. So this is all a digital dash, tells you exactly what's going on outside temperature, time, your rev, your speed, all that kind of stuff, how much fuel you've used, what kind of drive mode you're in. This truck has an 8-speed automatic gearbox. It's controlled through here, so to put it into drive you just click it forward, to put it into reverse you click it down beneath, and then neutral is there. Handbrake, it's an electronic handbrake in this truck and it's controlled from there. So if we put it into drive, so you put it into drive, it will automatically knock that off. Put it back into neutral. Then if you want to re-engage the handbrake, just do that and it's on.